Welcome to the full moon forecast for the Cancer full moon in 2025. My colleague and friend, astrologer Justin Crockett-Elzy, is joining me today. Welcome, Justin. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Liz. How are you doing on this new year? Getting ready,
Good, and
we're in
I'm glad to have you back with me doing another show. So let's get to it.
yep, let's
So to
jump
get a
right
hold
into
of
the new. Go ahead.
Justin, he has his website's justincrocketelzy.com, and my website is alightpath.com. And we're at the full moon again, and it's a Cancer full moon. And Cancer is a cardinal sign that initiates and creates. It's a water sign, so it's emotional. It's ruled by the moon, and the full moon culminates and prepares us to move forward. Cancer is about feelings and security, family, home, and the sun is in Capricorn, so that's about hard work. Would you like to say anything else about those?
Um, no, not yet, not yet.
So this is the Great Spirit Moon on January 13th. Oh, and I had the wrong year in there. I didn't update the year.
Oh,
It's
that's okay.
2025, and the time will be 2:27 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 5:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the moon is at 23 degrees Cancer and 59 minutes. Go ahead.
And so, one of the things we look at, for those that are just watching this show, if you've never seen the show, we do look at the lunar mansions for not only the sun but also the moon, what nakshatras, and I look at it from a Vedic Jyotish way, one of the nakshatras. So the sun is going through the lunar mansion or nakshatra of Uttarashada for this full moon, and it's in the first pada or section, which is always ruled by fire, and this is what's called the universal star. So the keyword theme for the sun here is expansion and putting our beliefs into practice. Ruling planet is the sun. The ruling deity for this lunar mansion, for this sun on this full moon, is the Vishvavedas, which are the universal gods. And basically, those were this number of gods that were all, each one had a particular virtue, let's say, for like abundance or truth or justice, and that's what they represented. And uh, this nakshatra is also related to Ganesha, which is the elephant headed god, of course, and is the remover of obstacles. So that's also related to this particular lunar mansion. The symbol is an elephant tusk. And if we look at it as above below, the basis above here is the strength to win, and this basis of below is the goal that can be won. So that's sort of the power or Shakti power for this particular lunar mansion or nakshatra for the sun. The next slide is for the moon or Chandra.
I have a question. So, if
Sure.
we want to help with removing some obstacles, so should we just call on Ganesha?
Yes, absolutely. This is a great full moon to work with Ganesha. Definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then for the moon, the lunar mansion or nakshatra that the moon is in for this particular full moon is Punarvasu in the third pada. And the keyword theme here is intellectual and the power to gain abundance and attaining knowledge to create something new. And of course, the ruling planet is Jupiter, and the ruling the deity is Aditi, who is the Mother Earth goddess or Mother Goddess. And so that's why this is, again, the star of renewal. And the symbol is bow and arrows, and the basis above is wind, and the basis below is rain. So we get this, we see how wind and rain is a renewal effect when we talk about moisture and rain and wind, of how it renews. And so this is a very good nakshatra for the moon. It's all about renewal and a gaining abundance, but there's a knowledge aspect to this. Again, back to a little bit of what we see there with belief systems and putting them into practice, which we're going to actually see these themes show up in the Sabian symbols as well. So that is the two lunar mansions. for this full moon. So if you'd like, you can work with Ganesha and or Aditi in any type of ritual space, and gaining abundance and putting getting things going, that Capricorn, putting things into practice and getting going. And as we, you and I've talked about, Liz, we talked about actually, Cancer is this energy that's very nurturing, right? And very creative. We always think of Leo's creativity, but Cancer is also very creative. It creates, it births new things, right? So
Well, that's good. So we can remove some obstacles and create new things and move forward. That's fantastic.
and we'll see that there's a knowledge aspect and belief aspect, and actually putting those into practice with that Capricorn energy in this.
And will you share the quote with us that you found, please?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of look at this because, as we're going to see with the Sabian symbols, there's also an intellectual or knowledge aspect to this today. I went back to a really great um, quote by Edgar Cayce, who, as you've mentioned, was the sleeping prophet, American sleeping prophet and channeler. And so he said at one time, quote, "For it should be manifested to thee that thou art conscious in a living world, aware of suffering, of sorrow, of joy, and of pleasure. These, to be sure, are the price one pays for having will and knowledge. But let that knowledge be spent in a way and manner to help others." And that's what I liked about this quote, that we can use our knowledge to help others. So, any thoughts or comments on that?
Well, I really liked the quote, and I've always kind of admired Edgar Cayce. So, most of
Yeah,
my life, because my grandmother even talked about him and my mom.
awesome.
So here's the chart for the Cancer new moon, and this is a chart in Seattle, Washington. So the ascendant's at 26 degrees of Gemini, and that's circled in orange, and the ruling planet is um, Mercury, that has a orange arrow pointing towards it, and that's at 7 degrees of Capricorn. So, that kind of is the Mercury is that intellectual knowledge part, I think. And
Mhm.
then the midheaven is 25 Aquarius circled in green, and the ruling planet is Uranus. That's the modern ruler with a green arrow. And then the sun is in Capricorn, and that's circled in blue, and it's the ruling planet is Saturn in Pisces, and that has a blue arrow. And then the moon is at 23 Cancer with a purple circle, and the moon rules the moon. So on this one. So anything you'd like
Yeah.
to add?
Oh, well, I just point out, as we're going to get into this today, that we have both an air sign for the ascendant in the midheaven here. So again, there's a communications knowledge theme going on with Gemini and Aquarius on the ascendant and midheaven with this. And you pointed out Mercury, the planet of communications and knowledge and thinking as well.
Okay, we're going to do the Sabian symbols next. And the Sabian symbols were channeled by spiritualist medium Elsie Wheeler in 1925 with the assistance of Mark Edmund Jones, who was an astrologer, occultist, and a writer and an actor. So we're going to start with the Sabian symbol for the ascendant, and we cover three. So leading up to the now and what's next. So you want to start there, Justin?
Sure. So leading up to this, Gemini 25 degrees is a gardener trimming large palm trees. And the keynote here is bringing under control nature's power of expansion. So this concept of pruning, uh, when we think about knowledge, or clearing the hard drive in order to allow something new to come in.
And then Gemini 26, the now, frost covered trees against winter skies. And the keynote is the revelation of archetypal form and essential rhythm of existence. And the key word is essentialization.
And then the Gemini 27 degrees is a gypsy emerging from the forest wherein her tribe is encamped. Keynote, reaching out towards participation in a larger whole of mind structured existence. Mind, of course. And the key word here is repolarization.
Did you want to sum those up or just go on to the next one?
Well, I'm curious what you think is the summation. I would say this kind of, again, we see a very intellectualization here, a little bit of kind of pruning, but going through some level of static with the frost-covered trees. And then, of course, this expansion of knowledge, mind-structured existence, and repolarization, kind of regrouping and expansion of knowledge. What did you get out of this?
Well, the pruning could be letting go of what we no longer need, and if you have a hard time pruning, think of what is essential, what are your essential needs, and then there's this adjustment or repolarization that will occur,
I like that. I
like a
like that.
rebalancing.
You stated it way better than I did. I love that.
Oh, I think we both did a good job.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to look at the midheaven of 25 Aquarius, and we'll start from what led up to 25 Aquarius, and we start with Aquarius 24. A man, having overcome his passions, teaches deep wisdom in terms of his experience. The constructive use to which difficult past experiences can be put as examples for those who are still striving to overcome their passions. Communicability. Oh, I struggled with that word today.
That's okay. Aquarius 25 degrees, a butterfly with the right wing more perfectly formed. Keynote here is the capacity to develop the rational and fully conscious aspect of the mind. Again, we're talking about mind here, ahead of normal evolution. And the key phrase here is transmutation of emotional energies.
And then what's next is Aquarius 26, a garage man testing a car's battery with a hydrometer. Skill in applying knowledge of natural law to the solution of everyday problems resulting from life in our technology society. Mental efficiency. So what would you say that sums up to?
Well, again, we're talking about mind, knowledge, wisdom. That's again why I put those quotes in there. So I think this is really talking about perception. Um, we letting go of our passions and kind of going deeper into wisdom of experience, and working through difficult emotions, but also using our knowledge, putting into practice, like we were talking about before, using that, what we're talking about, using knowledge and putting into practice um, to overcome our problems today.
Right, and sharing our wisdom to help make changes and transmute the energy and still be, of sound mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the Sabian symbol 23 Capricorn for the sun. Go ahead and start, Justin.
Sure. So the Capricorn 22 degrees, what's leading into it is by accepting defeat gracefully, a general reveals nobility of character, the realization that one may grow through defeat as well as perhaps more than through success. And the key phrase here is inner strength.
And then the now Capricorn 23, a soldier receiving 2 awards for bravery in combat. The reward offered by society for the fulfillment of individual responsibility. And the key word is recompense, a well done performance, a balancing of accounts.
And then Capricorn 24 degrees, a woman entering a convent. The keynote here is total commitment to a transcendent goal. Key phrase is transcendent security.
Well, and I would say tapping into our inner strength, and we'll reap the rewards of, staying strong. And then the new beginning can start. What would you say?
I think I wouldn't say it any different than you did. I think you got it right. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Okay, now we're going to look at the Cancer moon at 23 degrees. And so we'll start at Cancer 22 of what led up to this new moon or this full moon. A young woman awaiting a sailboat. In the keynote, the longer for transcendent happiness to the soul, open to great dreams. And the key word is expectancy of the eternal feminine to reward with reality.
And the Cancer 23 degrees, the meeting of a literary society. Keynote is an objective and critical approach to common factors in our culture and to its psychological problems. And keyword here, again, we hear this word intellect, and here's a word I have problems with: intellectualization.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah.
And then next is Cancer 24, a woman and two men castaways on a small island off the South Seas. And the keynote is the focalization of complex inner potentialities in harmonic and concrete relationships. And the key word is interdependence. So, how would you sum this up?
Again, back to perception, because the first one's talking about a critical approach to our problems and how we are approaching, again, using our knowledge to overcome problems, like the Capricorn sun was talking about, but realizing that letting go of expectations, but also realize the interdependence of relationships we have in order to accomplish what we want to accomplish.
I like that. So, we're going to go on to the out of bounds planets. And an out of bound planet is a planet that exceeds the declination of 23 degrees and 27 minutes north or south. Out of planets are out of the bounds of the sun and they act on their own, often kicking up their heels and acting out of character. So the moon is out of bounds from January 10th through the 14th. Mercury is out of bounds from January 10th through the 20th. And Mars is out of bound from January 1st to April 7th. And Ceres has been out of bounds since April 2nd of 2024 through January 15th of 2025. So it's finally going to go back in bounds. Anything else you want to say about the out of bounds planets?
Well, I think it's kind of cool if you go and look at the moon tonight in the sky. It's, very close to Jupiter, and you can see that it's kind of not in alignment with Jupiter. You can actually kind of see if you have one of those. I have Star Walk, so I can see that line of where the planets are, and the moon is above that line, and so you can see how it's kind of disjointed from Jupiter in the sky tonight. It's not in alignment with it.
Right. And this month, if you have a clear sky, there's going to be a lot of great sky watching, and there's all kinds of science apps or things that you can find on that'll help you find all those.
Yeah, you can see Mars in the sky right now as well, and Venus just set. So,
And I think we're going to be able to see Saturn about a little past the middle of the month, and its rings even with binoculars, I hear. So
yeah.
I'm hoping for a clear sky here in Washington. So here's an aspect key for that. It could be useful to any of you that would like that. And here again is the Cancer full moon, the moon and the sun opposite each other. And then we'll start with the aspects. You want to jump in, Justin, please?
No, I'll let you go. You start first.
Okay. Well, the moon is conjunct Mars, so I find that very interesting because Mars is out of bounds and so close to that moon, you know, influencing that moon, and Mars is still retrograde. So it's kind of joining the party of this full moon. And then the sun is conjunct loosely with Pallas Athena and Pluto, and they're opposite each other. And then with the red lines, we have a T square with Chiron square to the sun and moon. So it's like we have this a little bit of action or adjustment being asked of us. So would you like to talk about any of those more deeply?
Well, I was going to. One of the things that really jumps out to me about this screen in particular, the aspects you've listed here, is the concept of relationship. Because I think I'd be curious what you found, but usually when the moon is conjunct Mars, there's sort of this energy of relationship that happens here, especially with those two. The moon having a more feminine aspect, Mars can have a more masculine aspect, so that generally brings in energy about relationship. And then we see that the moon is actually in a water trine with Neptune, which represents the collective, and Juno, which represents marriage or relationship. And we did see one of the Sabian symbols tonight talking about interdependence of relationship. So I think this is a time to kind of really, people are going to be much more in tune about their emotions within their relationships right now with this water grand trine. And then I think the Earth grand trine is represented sort of what's going on in our outer world with the sun in Capricorn, Uranus, and Taurus, and that South Node in Virgo seems to be sort of this, because the South Node moving into Virgo is wanting to purge or perfect, and I think the change that Uranus is bringing in and Taurus and the Sun trying to bring some level of stability is all this. It's like juggling balls here, with these three planets trying to perfect, change, and still bring things stable. It's almost like, to me, it almost feels like the three Godhead in Hindu philosophy. God's the creator, so that's that sun in Capricorn. I mean, Brahma is the creator. That's the sun in Capricorn. Um, Uranus in Taurus is like Shiva, and then of course we got that South Node in Virgo, so that's a little bit of Vishnu trying to preserve, but also part of that sun trying to. So you could probably put Brahma on that South Node in Virgo, trying to birth something, and Vishnu's trying to bring some level of stability and preservation. So there's sort of that three Godhead there. It's a
Oh, I
weird
like
way
that.
because they're all three doing something differently there, right? Change, stability, and perfection or improvement.
Well, and I agree with the relationship aspect of the moon in Cancer, and then Mars being there. I would say that possibly our emotions could run a little high, or things could upset us that maybe normally wouldn't, but have patience and compassion for yourself and others, because it'll pass, in a day or two. So it's not a super long lasting aspect. It's going to just be for a short time, but have patience and breathe.
Right.
Okay, and then we have a mystic rectangle, and the sun is well, I'll start with moon and Mars are sextile to the south node, and the south node is trine to that sun, Pluto, Pallas, and then sun and that trio is sextile to the moon and Mars. No, it should have been sextile to the node, the north node. Sorry, I made a mistake there too. Um, so it's like a mystical rectangle. They have the two oppositions because the sun and moon are opposite, and then the nodes are opposite. So there's tension within that mystical rectangle. But I always think of the mystical rectangle bringing us a gift or a surprise. But there can be some work that has to be done to overcome to receive the gift or the opportunity that shows up. What would you like to say?
Well, it is definitely not um, lost on us that we're dealing both with two water signs, two earth signs here,
Mhm.
right? And they're both playing a role: the Cancer Capricorn and the Virgo Pisces. So I always see the Capricorn and Cancer trying to create, and create and bring stability, and that Virgo and Pisces is trying to purify and to also create, um, and bring some level of truth. So I think that's just my thoughts on it. Just making a note that these are both earth and water signs.
Right. Thank you for that. Okay, and then we have Jupiter, square Venus, and Saturn. Would you like to speak to those?
Yeah. So I think we were talking about this earlier. Um, I think this really, with Venus and Pisces, Venus is our affections and desires. I'd be curious what you think about this. I think that it's next to Saturn, which it brings a little bit more of reality to the Piscean archetype, a little bit more seriousness. So I think how we're thinking that Jupiter and Gemini, which is about communications, experience, travel, communications, is and thinking is I think it's actually giving us some pause to what's possible right now. It's part of this whole regrouping and rearranging that we're doing right now with our thinking and what our desires are for right now. What did you think about that?
Well, and we could have big dreams, but Saturn kind of like chunks it down to how can you make that dream become a reality? Because if you do it in steps, or it's a vision that, or a dream that, you really want to come into manifestation, that Jupiter could, even though there's friction there, but it could really help manifest that, if instead of it being what they'll say a pipe dream is a common saying, pie in the sky, but if you chunk it down and go, okay, how could I make that real?
Absolutely, and I agree. And I just had this epiphany while I was listening to you talk. You kind of helped me hone into my thoughts here. This is a really creative thing, right? The squaring, because it's almost like you have this creative idea that Jupiter is the brainstormer in Gemini. It has all these great thoughts. It could do this, it could do that. But because it's squaring Saturn, as you said, Saturn's bringing sort of, okay, how do you bring that into play? I like how you stated that. So this is a really good creative period for writers and people who are
Artists,
and planning.
Songwriters. This would be great for a songwriter.
Yep.
So, okay, and then we have Neptune opposite that south node. So the nodes are opposite, of course, but then Neptune is opposite that south node. So since that Neptune to me is so close to the north node of that conjunction, we're going to have several conjunctions of the north node with Neptune this year. It's like you can manifest your dreams and desires as long as they're not delusional, or that you've blown them out so big that it's like, it would take you 5 lifetimes to accomplish that.
Yeah, and I want to just kind of put a plug in here, because we're going to be having a separate show about the nodes, moving into Virgo and Pisces. So stay tuned, folks, for that. Liz and I are going to be talking about that. But I think this is interesting. I agree with you. This kind of brings in a dose of reality. That South Node in Virgo is about purging, and it's the critic. And so, yeah, it's bringing a dose of reality to maybe some delusion in the collective there with Neptune. So I think it's kind of bringing down to earth some reality here as we move into the year of what some people want to accomplish, but now they have to kind of look at what's reality and what's not.
Right. And maybe if you share your ideas, you'll find 5 people that want to do something really similar, and you can manifest it together, possibly as a solution. Or, quit criticizing, because it's like, well, I have to do this, and this to even work on that. And it's like, well, maybe you don't have to do all those things.
and I think this kind of represents a little bit of the division in the collective. One part is kind of nope, that can't be done. Nope, this is not going to work that way. And then you have this other part of the collective in Pisces that's delusional, has this pie in the sky view. So it'll be interesting when Neptune moves into Aries, what that's going to look like.
Right, exactly. So we're going to jump to the lunar phase family or gestation cycle. We use the 4 phases of the moon: the new, phase, the first quarter, the full, and the last quarter. And they complete a monthly lunar cycle every 29 and a half days. And Pessin discovered that these phases play out in 9-month intervals. These phases occur in the same sign and approximately the same degree. Each moon family can reveal patterns and unfolding stories over time. So we're at the full moon phase of January 13th. It's highlighted in yellow, but this phase started, the new phase, July 17th of 2023 at 24 Cancer. And so then the next 9 months was the first quarter phase. So if you journal or even keep a calendar, sometimes you can look back and get some hints of, what were you starting then? What were you working on? What was changing? And then it grew to the first quarter. And now it's, at that point, it's time to make adjustments. So that was April 15th, 2024. And it was 26 Cancer. And it doesn't have to be exactly on that day. It can be around that day. I would give it, 5 to 10 days on either side of that exact date. And then
Go ahead.
We're at the full moon phase. So now it's, time for whatever you've been working on since 2023 of July to come into full illumination. So it's like if you were thinking of starting a business or writing a book, it should be like almost at the phase to launch it or to publish it, or like maybe it's being edited now to be published. And then the third quarter phase will be October 13th of 2025 at 20 Cancer. And that's where you're finishing up and deciding, do you want to continue on with that, or is it time to this is coming to completion and it's time for a new project? Any comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say, for those folks in the audience that want to maybe look at a bigger picture, all the different lunar phases of the year and the families, where's a good source for that?
Well, if I update my website, maybe I did do 2025. I'll have to look, but I usually put it on my website every year under astrology resources.
Oh, awesome.
And I put the 8 phases of the year. So if I haven't done it, I'll put it on my list to do and get that on there soon.
Awesome. Yeah. So everybody's watching wants to kind of heads up about what those phases are. Check out Liz's website.
And then there's the yearly lunar phase, and the Cancer new moon was on July 5th of 2024 at 14 degrees Cancer. And now we're at the Cancer full moon phase at 23 degrees Cancer. So, any project you might have started in July, how's that project going? Now you're at the full phase. It's like it's time for it to, start showing results, or maybe it just isn't worth your effort, or maybe you need to set it aside and pick it up in a few years, or, next year or next month or whenever. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, you got it covered.
Okay, and you have another quote, so go ahead with this one.
Yeah, so this one is done by Anton Chekhov, who was a famous Russian playwright. And he said, knowledge is of no value unless you put it into practice. And that's basically kind of a summation of kind of what the Nakshatras were talking about, was any type of knowledge or beliefs or creativity that we have now. This is now the time to, this Capricorn sun is saying this, now's the time to get busy. Now's the time to, get off and get, there's beliefs and creativity, but now we need to put it into action and practice. As we get into this year, we're going to start to feel things move faster and faster. And especially after Mars goes direct in February, we'll start to see things speed up.
Okay, do you have any advice for people for this full moon period that they can work with?
I think it's a good planning moon. What's interesting is you're a Capricorn and I'm a Cancer. So I thought that was interesting. We're talking about a full moon in Cancer with a Capricorn sun, right? So I think what do you think about this?
Well, I agree that it's a good time for planning and working on projects, doing research, putting things together, purging, releasing things. Um, because when Mars goes direct, it'll be a lot easier to put things into practice or, get them going. Because oftentimes when Mars is retrograde, it can be a little slower process to launch things and get them going.
All right. And that goes
Even,
direct February 23rd
yes, that's right.
in Cancer. In
Uh
Cancer.
huh. And my mantra for the year is surf the wave of change with grace and compassion for yourself and others. So that's what I'm going to say is advice.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy year. Yeah.
Well, there's
Yep.
just lots of changes and shifts. And so be prepared to adjust. And, like if we have our GPS on, it'll say redirect, turn around. It's like take a different route. It's like
Right.
reprogramming the routes, so to speak. So,
Right. Yeah, I think,
oh,
I think back to this is the time to kind of put, like you said, that planning, start thinking about putting it into action and sooner, how we're going to put that in, make it real. Right.
and I've heard several people, some of my clients have told me that they haven't played instruments in a long time and they're getting instruments to play again. So that creative music or writing, it feels like that energy is very supportive of that at this time.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So, Justin and I both do consultations. We have newsletters and YouTube channels, so we appreciate you subscribing. Justin and I do the monthly astrology forecast, the full moon forecast each month, and we have a Chiron asteroid series. And then I have a show called the Astrology Star Sisters, and we do the dwarf planets, planet stationing, decans using astrology and tarot, fixed stars, Uranian astrology, and I'm gonna. It won't be part of the astrology star sisters, but I'm gonna add astrological magic to the pot, so you can look forward to that. I believe in February.
Wow. Who's that going to be with?
Robert Passetti.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah, and
He's
so
a
he's
really
gonna.
great astrologer. Yeah.
Yes. And then Justin and I will be on Talk Cosmos on January 26th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're on the archetypal symbols team talking about the Aquarius new moon. And go ahead, Justin.
And I do several things on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. And then also on my YouTube channel, I also do a relationship podcast, the Astrology Relationship Podcast with Michael Bartlett. He's a great astrologer out of New Mexico.
And I want to thank all of you that have joined us live today and all of you that come back and watch us in the future. We appreciate you and look forward to seeing you again soon. And Justin's website is justincrockettLZ.com, and my website is alightpath.com. And we enjoy hearing from you. And we're going to say goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. See you soon.